Hello class, welcome to Chapter 30, Virtualization. This week we're going to be talking about what is virtualization and describing some of the concepts. We're going to be explaining why PC and network administrators have widely adopted virtualization. And then we're going to describe how virtualization works in modern networks. So, Chapter 30 starts out with what is virtualization and how is it started. If you ask about 100 different people what term virtualization means or what virtual means, you get a lot of different answers. Some people think it's like fake or pretend or anything like that. But there's more to it than just that, because then you talk about virtual reality. Virtual reality isn't exactly fake reality, it's more like alternate reality. Something that is created. So in virtual reality, the headgear and the gloves work together to create this alternate reality or simulation that you can interact with. So within this, you can work within the different spaces and constructs that have been created. That is emulating a physical world. The gloves allow you to touch and move objects, while the glasses allow you to view it, and sometimes there's even audio that goes with it. You do need, though, effective hardware and software to work together to create this environment that's basically it's real enough for you to look and work in, that makes it seem real enough for you to work in. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything, but it has limitations. It just basically it's limited to how you've coded it and the imagination of the programmer. So today, let's apply this to computers and the different virtualized environments that computers can work in. So first thing the chapter starts talking about is the management environment, which is called the hypervisor. So a normal operating system like Windows uses programming called a supervisor to handle very low-level interactions with the hardware and software, stuff like that. Because virtualization still emulates a machine, you have to have something that simulates this. It's called a host. To be able to run multiple operating systems simultaneously, you need for something to be able to manage it, and that's where this hypervisor comes in, or it's also called a virtual machine manager, VMM. The hypervisor basically handles the virtual hardware of the virtualized environment. So it's actually emulating the PC, then another type of PC. If you look on page 1381 and 1380, you can see that some of the similarities between BIOS and what you would see in a hypervisor. You can see on 1380 that you can define your amount of memory, your processors, hard drives, CD-ROMs, network adapters. One kicker is the memory cannot exceed the memory that is in your current computer, so you can't virtualize more memory than you have. Now, there is a difference between emulation and virtualization. First, let's look at emulation. Emulation basically is a software or hardware that converts the commands from one host machine to an entirely different platform. So what this would be is if you're emulating an Intel processor to an AMD processor, two different code sets, I mean, it just processes it different. Virtualization basically creates the same type of hardware environment or similar. It doesn't change the commands of those hardware platforms. So this chapter is going to show you several different ways that we can use virtualization. But let's look at some of the basics. So on 1383, it talks about obtaining a copy of VMware Workstation. Program isn't free, but you can download a trial. For our lab, we're actually going to use Virtual PC, which is free. But for the discussion, let's look at page 1383. And it's going to talk about how the hardware looks in it. If you're clicking on the machine prompts here, you're going to see this is going to lead you through how to set up a virtual machine in VMware Workstation. So read this section. It looks like all the way to page 1387, 1388. It's going to lead you through how to install Ubuntu desktop. That's okay. We're actually going to do some stuff in our lab with that too, using Virtual PC. So if you go to 1388, we're talking about why do you virtualize. So what is the advantages of virtualization? Well, some of these advantages are listed here in page 1389, but let's look at them one at a time. Some of these advantages are being able to run multiple different types of operating systems on a single PC hardware platform. So you can run Windows, you can run Ubuntu, you can run Windows Server, you can run Ubuntu Server or Linux Server, in essence what I'm getting at. There's multiple advantages here. Some of the hardware advantages is there's some significant power saving. You don't have to have a full computer to be able to run this second operating system. You can just spin up a virtual machine and just use a little bit of extra power in your computer. This is going to save you a significant amount of power. You can also have hardware consolidation. You don't need to, again, have a second machine sitting there running idle. You can actually utilize your resources more efficiently with running virtualized operating systems. And then also, it's easier to recover your system, because now your entire computer or your virtual machine is a single file or collection of files, and you can actually back those up. So it's a lot easier to recover your systems. So you can think of your virtual machine as like a Word document spreadsheet or something like that. Another advantage is being able to duplicate systems quickly. In an IT environment, this is ideal, because sometimes you need to be able to run multiples of the same types of system, and it makes your workload a lot faster to be able to run up multiple systems really quick. And finally, there's also an advantage in research. What I mean by research is you can run and test different pieces of software on a virtual environment and not have to worry about messing up your standard operating system. So there's things in the virtual environment called snapshots, and basically it's kind of like a flash backup. Okay, so how is virtualization used in networking today? So say they're at Tri-County or any other major network. Well, you have to have some sort of underlying operating system like we talked about earlier that goes ahead and runs the virtual hardware and everything. And VMware Workstation is good for on a workstation because it's designed for workstations. But then you have to have something more advanced to be able to handle servers. And this is where VMware introduced a platform called ESX and ESXi. They introduced this in 2001 to handle a lower amount of resource usage hypervisor, so that way it can run more operating systems at the same time. It's also designed to be more efficient in running multiple operating systems. There's not much to it. As a matter of fact, the whole operating system can run on a USB thumb drive. If you look on page 1393, you can see this little USB port, but it looks like it's inside of a computer. Well, this is a thumb drive that fits inside of a virtualized hardware environment and can actually run ESX or ESXi. So, there's multiple types of virtual machine managers, or these are the virtualization softwares. So let's look at several of them here. VMware Workstation we talked about, designed by VMware. It's a proprietary piece of software. Works very well, is very efficient at what it does. Virtual PC is something we're going to look at in the lab. It's designed to run the same way, except it's open source. So basically it's free. Everyone can contribute to the project if you know how to code, stuff like that. It does have some limitations, but I mean, granted, what most people are going to do with it in the everyday world, you'd be fine. Parallels is a virtualization software that is designed for Mac OS X. It's very good, but it's strictly for Mac. There is one designed for Linux called KVM. Unless you're going to run Linux as your base operating system, I wouldn't worry about this. You can also get Virtual PC for Linux as well. So, I mean, there's multiple contenders here. Then Microsoft has gotten into the market. On page 1396, you can see some server-side ones. Microsoft has gotten into the market with Hyper-V. It's good. It's free. The disadvantage is that it can take up a decent amount of resources. But again, I mean, it's included in the Windows licensing, so if people don't want to front the money for Hyper-V, then, or for ESX, then they can go ahead and run Hyper-V. And then, like we talked about, there's ESX by VMware. It can interface very easily and seamlessly with large storage. It has very transparent fault tolerance and server transfers, and it can handle a very high number of CPUs. So that's pretty much it. This is a fairly short chapter. Read the chapter, get ready for the quiz, and then let's go ahead and start looking at the lab. Thanks. Hello class, and welcome to the week 15 lab on virtualization. This week we're going to have you go through our normal 3 sections. Again, section 1 is terminology, worth 10 points. Now sections 2 and 3 are worth a little bit more because you're actually physically doing something and you have your hands on the work. So section 2 is going to be installing and setting up a virtual machine, which is going to require you to download some software. And section 3 is going to require you to actually install a virtual operating system, and in this we're going to use Ubuntu or Linux. So let's look at section 1. Section 1 is our normal terminology, so you guys got this down pat, so don't worry about this. Section 2 is going to run you through virtualizations and have you answer some questions. We're going to use the hypervisor software called VirtualBox. So you can go to this website and download it, www.virtualbox.org. We'll go there in a little bit and run you through it. And then it's going to have some screenshots in the lab and actually help you through this particular portion of the lab. So you can see here how it's running through different things. This is actually setting with a virtual machine once you have the installation done. And then your virtual machine's set up. And then you need to download an operating system. We're not going to be doing Windows 7 again. Like I said, we're going to be doing Ubuntu. So you need to be able to go to ubuntu.com. We've already tested this. It should work. but I'll double check that. And then it's actually run you through some questions and how to connect the ISO file to the virtual machine. And then section 3, you're going to install Linux. Now you can play with it and stuff once you have it installed, but your last week we're actually going to go through how to do different things in Linux. So let's go ahead and go through and download these two softwares. One is virtualbox.org and ubuntu.com. So let's go to VirtualBox first, because you need to be able to download that. If you go to www.virtualbox.org and hit enter, you can see here on the left side that you actually want to go to downloads. And on your downloads you're going to have a lot of different options here. The one you're looking for is one for Windows hosts right here. You just click that, download that software, and this will take a little bit to download. It's about 100 meg. So once that's done downloading, then we can run through the installation. It's just like installing any other piece of software. So you shouldn't have any difficulties with this. There is one nuance, is it's going to temporarily disable your network connections. So you will not want to be downloading Ubuntu while you are installing the software, because it'll cut off your network connection. So let's go through and install this software real quick. So this is what it looks like. You're just going to click next, next, and just go ahead and leave everything default. Click next. Now here's that warning I was telling you about. This is warning, network interfaces. Installing the Oracle VM VirtualBox will reset your network connections temporarily and disconnect you from the network. Do you want to proceed with installation? You're going to want to click yes with this, and then just install. And that's it. It may come up with another prompt here. That's okay. Let's see how long this takes. So it may take longer or shorter depending on how speedy your computers are. Oh, here's a prompt. We're going to click yes. And then now I'm actually doing an upgrade because I've had this on here before, so you may not see the uninstall and reinstall portions. But it can take several minutes depending on your computer. See, there's the new files going in. Almost done. And that's it. I always uncheck it and then click finish. Now let's go ahead and download Ubuntu. If you go to www.ubuntu.com, you're going to come to the main screen, the main page. Now for you guys, we're just going to do desktop. And we can click download Ubuntu here. Okay, now that's going to ask for 64-bit or 32-bit. You guys are going to do 32-bit machines. So we'll just click that, and we'll click download. Now here's asking you to donate money. You can just ignore that, scroll down, and it says now take me to the download. We're going to click that. And then it's going to download. And this is probably about a gig worth of data. So on your guys' connection, this will take a little bit of time. I definitely don't recommend doing this while you are installing um, virtual PC, because it will reset your connection and then you'll have to um, start it over again. But you shouldn't have any issues downloading it. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. I'll be available on chat. Otherwise, good luck. Okay, well, that was some of the lab. And if you have any questions, get me on chat or email. Otherwise, we'll see you later.